Perhaps the most common issue that presenters have to handle is having one of the executives around the table cut your time. You were planning to speak for 30 minutes, but you walk in and now you have 10. What is a presenter to do?
The objective of the presentation we're about to walk into is I have a proposal to alter some of the policies in which we have for the selling community at eBay, and I'm looking for the executives to agree that that's the right approach to move forward.
In this segment on Time Cut, you'll learn how to cut to your bottom line, why you need to have a shorter version of your presentation, and how to use the elevator pitch when you have to cut to the chase.
Thank you for coming here and meeting with me today. I have a really important topic to talk to you guys about, and that is we have a new strategy for the Power Seller program, and we think it's really important, and it's quite a fundamental change from what it is that we have said what our strategy was going to be to sellers before this. But the fact of the matter is we just need a new approach, and we need to start to
Todd, where are we going with this? What do we need to try to get done here?
So I have
We've only got about 5 minutes to get through this, as you know. So we need to kind of get to the bottom line.
So I have 7 slides, okay, that we can get through, okay, and my team worked really hard on them. So, and one of them's got great visuals. You're gonna love this slide. I know how you like.
Todd, let me just. What do you want from us here? Do you want us to give you a decision at the end of this 7 slides, or at the end of this 5 minutes is the way?
That's certainly the objective, but it's a really good story in terms of like where we came from and the history of the program.
So why don't you give us the conclusions and we'll take a look at them?
Yeah, I don't understand the problem yet. I mean, the level playing field has to be tilted for what reason?
Yeah, we can back up after that.
So, as you know, the program started in 1999, and in 1999,
this is still strict cron. Go to the problem and then peel us back if there's any time left by the time.
I'm about out of time. I think I'm going to have to leave.
Okay, so let me.
Why don't we dispense with the slides, and why don't you just talk to us?
Just talk about it. Yeah.
What do you want? Is there a decision we're trying to get here today?
Executives cut your time, usually because of time, their time. Senior executives are under constant time pressure. It's very irritating to top-level people if the presenter is disorganized and doesn't respect their time constraints.
There's nothing worse for me than somebody that has no concept of time. You know, if you tell somebody they have a 30-minute slot and at 30 minutes they're on their 3rd slide out of 20, they have absolutely no concept of time and no respect for our time.
They don't anticipate the questions and discussions that are going on. You know, if you have a half hour on the staff meeting, you ought to probably plan on a 10 to 15-minute presentation. You know, and people say, well, I got a half-hour presentation. Well, if you got a half-hour on the agenda, you're not going to get through a half-hour presentation because we're not going to let you. You know, and you know, you ought to assume that you've got 50% of the time to use yourself on the other 50% of stuff that we're going to use. I mean, it's our meeting. Right. You are coming to our meeting, right? And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. And consequently, they run over. They get halfway through the presentation. It's time for the next item on the agenda.
Sometimes you come in and say you don't want to make the decision, so you say I don't have any time. You're not interested in the topic, so you want to leave early. You have a luncheon date that can wait, but you make things up as you go along.
The pace of the presentation can cause people to say, I don't have time.
Right.
it feels personal almost, that like they're disagreeing with me and they're not giving me the time. That when you pull back and you think of it later, you realize that it's not personal. But when you're in the room and you get your time cut and you know you're supposed to have 20 minutes and you get 5, at first you feel there's some form of rejection there. The goal is to get the project approved. I think that was the goal of the meeting. I think that, you know, career management's always going on in the background of the meeting. So, you know, because the time was cut and I didn't get the message across in the time that that was allotted, I'm fearful that you don't get the project approved that you want, which has implications for me and my team down the road. I was disappointed because of all the time and energy that I put into it. You kind of hope that you'll get the time that you think you're gonna get.
If you had a 50-minute presentation and everything's running late, and at the end I say to you, you have 15 minutes, You should have already known before you walked in that door, if I can only present 3 slides, which ones would they be? Because I need to get this done.
So you should have 2 presentations is what I've learned along the way. One that is for the amount of time that they give you, and the second is for 5 minutes. Your bottom line, quickly, what do you need, what's the cost advantage, and the ROI.
Making sure that somebody organizes their time such that they can make their key points in as short a time as possible, allow plenty of time for discussion and debate, and then we can end it on time.
The first thing you got to do is you got to be responsive to the group. And if the group has lost their time window, then you have to jump forward, give them the bottom line, and then use the remaining time as you can.
Now let's watch as Todd takes this advice and demonstrates how to manage a very challenging time cut situation.
Really what we are proposing to do is add a new incentive system, really, to the program, to our sellers, and, to start incenting our sellers. And I'm going to take you through a presentation here that I have that kind of explains to you the history of the Power Seller program, where we're at, the numbers, and where we want to take it.
Unfortunately, 2 of us have got to leave here in about a minute. We're sorry we're so late here. We're running late getting you on. We're going to be early getting you off. So could we just cut to the chase really fast here?
So here's why we're here. The objective of this meeting is to obtain your agreement that I want to use the Power Seller program as the platform for incentives to modify the seller's behavior and improve the buying experience on
All right,
houses.
so these guys are going to have to run. Let me ask you 2 questions. What's going to be the reaction when we no longer have a level playing field? What's going to happen to the guys who don't get the incentives? You think they'll go elsewhere?
I don't believe so, and here's why. We believe that what we're doing here.
So you're pretty confident that they're...
I'm actually more than confident.
Well, okay, what's the thing cost?
What's the spend?
What's to spend? It'll cost us, about $10 million in fee rebates.
Over what period of time?
Per year.
Okay.
Have you already laid out how the incentive plans are going to look?
Yes.
That's already been developed?
So, what we do is we want to establish a minimum threshold for performance, and then we will give, a discount for the people who reach that minimum threshold.
Todd, it sounds good. Why don't you give us a chance to talk amongst
Yeah.
ourselves here? Thank you very much, and we'll get back to you and let you know later today.
Yeah.
The second time in there, it went great. I feel much better. I feel a lot of relief, quite frankly. I think what was different the second time than the first time is that I was basically ready. I felt ready for anything. I think the first time I walked in there, felt ready to go through a presentation. Like we have to go page 1, then page 2, then page 3. The second time I went in there, I feel like I could have done it, a 1-minute version, a 4-minute version, a 9-minute version. I feel like I could have gone page 7, page 2, page 1, or no pages at all. I was ready for any of the variables that meeting could have thrown me.
So what did the executives think of how Todd handled the time cut?
Number 1, he answered the questions. And he knew, so he knew what he was talking about. And 2, he tried to get to the end of his presentation and say what he was trying to sell us on, which was effective.
Yeah, I think he put all the objective up front.
Right.
He only used 1 slide in support of the argument, right, to try to help people understand the pros and cons or the situation. And right, he was very responsive to the questions.
The elevator pitch, I think, is a natural place to fall back into. It's your message, it's your story, and it's short and sweet. It gets your point across. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, the elevator pitch is all that you need.
A board member will always ask, okay, but what's the elevator pitch? If you can't reduce your strategy, if you can't reduce the proposition that you're putting in front of a group, whatever it is, down to a few sentences that can be described in an elevator that's going up, as few as 10 floors, then you probably don't have a central message that is succinct and compelling.